Welcome, MouseWorks fans, to another edition of Modeling News Around the World. And for this week's edition, again, not a whole lot of news. Just found out, though, that the movie I've been talking about from China called The Wandering Earth is actually out and on Netflix already. So I thought it was supposed to be released this summer, but anyways, it is on Netflix. And it is a long movie. It's 2.5 hours. But it's very interesting. The vehicles on there, the ones that look like the MAZ vehicles or the Scud vehicles, are very interesting. So I'm hoping that those model kits will be out pretty soon because I'm eager to build one. So if you have Netflix, go ahead and check it out. But just remember, it is a long movie, so, and it is made in China, so it's all the words are dubbed. So anyways, that's about all there is for the MouseWorks news. And up next is future kit releases. Hello again, MouseWorks fans, and welcome to future kit releases for this week. There's a small grouping of things that are new announcements, some from the Shizuoka show and some not. So first up is Kitty Hawk Models is going to be coming out with a 1/48 scale AH-1 Whiskey, or W, and this will actually be a really nice helicopter. They did another version of it earlier, I believe it was the Zulu, in 48 scale, so this is known as the Super Cobra. Also coming up is Amusing Hobby, which has done a few releases and done a few what-if tank models from World War II. They've got a 1/35 scale ARL 44 coming out. I believe this is a French tank what-if. The next one up is one called the Badger, which was inspired by the video game World of Tanks, the online tank battle game. So that one actually looks pretty interesting. Looks sort of like a tortoise with a little bit modification on it. And next up is Ryfield Models is going to be jumping into the Sherman production 1/35 scale kits. They were already announced by I believe it was Taycom was going to do, or Meng, one of the two is jumping into that already, and so now Ryfield Models is going to get into that. I believe it was Meng, but anyways, it's going to be a very interesting battle. Again, it might be like the Panthers and the Tigers, where everybody does 50 different versions of the Sherman. So Sherman fans, rejoice. There's a bunch of stuff coming down the pike. Next up, Trumpeter Models, who has done a bunch of MAZ Scud launching vehicles and Smirches, are going to use the same chassis. I think I might have announced it a while back, but they finally have confirmed they're going to do one of the giant fire truck with the for the runway fire suppression system. So it's going to have a huge tank on the back for the foam and a big cannon on the front. So that'll be a very interesting subject. That's 35th scale as well. Trumpeter Models is also coming out with in their T80 series a T80 UK, which is I believe from what I understand is an export version of the T80. It's got partial armor on it from the Ukrainian version, and looks to be pretty interesting. So if you're collecting T80s, here's another one coming down the pike. Mini Art is going to be coming out with a 1/35 scale Focke-Wulf Triebflugel, and this is a what-if vehicle aircraft that the Germans had drawings of. It was an idea of a centrifugal 3-engined sort of helicopter aircraft, but again, it's kind of interesting, and for them to do it 1/35, it's going to be a pretty good size and be well received. So that is about it for the future kit releases. So next up is new kit review. Alrighty, for this week's new kit review. I've got on the bench Meng's new Leopard 2 A7 Plus. Now they've already done the Leopard 2 A7, which looks very similar to a A6. This one actually is quite a bit different. They've almost gone back to the old A4 version with the flat sides. So this one just came out fresh off the presses, and so we'll take a look at that and show you what's on the side there. Nothing there. There's a profile of the other paints, or one of the paint schemes, and some data there. And on this side is the other paint job, which is the standard German European camouflage. A bunch of AK paint call outs on the side. Alrighty, so we will pop open some of the sprues on that and show you what it's all about. Okay, Mouseworks fans, welcome to the inbox review of the Meng Leopard 2 A7 Plus. And the first thing up is actually going to be the chassis. And that bag actually comes with the upper chassis and the lower chassis, and it looks like there's some little poly caps there. So, taking a look, extremely sharp detail, real crisp. All these little pieces where the torsion bars go are already put on there, so that saves you a lot of work. Even though there's a ton of parts in this thing, that would have made it incredibly complicated if they did those all separately. So that looks really good. And the top chassis, which is a little bit different than most Leopards, does have the anti-skid patches, which is really nice. And real sharp detail, bolt head detail. Kind of nice they molded the sides on it too. And real sharp detail on the toolboxes there. So that looks real good. Next up is the upper turret, and again has the anti-skid, which is actually a little more pronounced than normal, so that actually may not need to be reproduced with the technique with the putty. So we'll have to just see how it looks under primer. Real sharp details where the vision ports go, and all slide molded. Even the back is done. Again, that'll save on having to put a lot more parts together. Okay, first rack up is, give you an idea how many sprues there's going to be. This is X, and this is the machine gun. Gives you a couple different barrels here. They are slide molded, so they are hollow, which is really nice. Also, what's nice is they give you a belt of ammunition, which is nice because some of these models come with the bucket for the ammunition, and even if it's closed, there is a gap between it and the machine gun to that this is exposed. So nice that they gave us that. Next up is rack A, and there's two of these, and these are all the road wheels. Super sharp detail, no flash or anything like that. Well, just a tiny hair of flash on some of these pieces here. So I believe these might be the same as the regular A7. Next up is 1, 2, 3, 4 of these, and this is the link by link track, which is workable. It's a snap together track, although most people glue it together. But either which way, it's a lot of little pieces to put together, but it should go pretty quickly with it being snapped together. So there's 4 of those. Next up is sprue F, and this has, there's 2 of these, has all the torsion bars, which look real sharp, some of the sprockets and some of the grill radiator detail, and boy, it looks real sharp. All the little pieces there. So the torsion bars should actually be workable. So if you do want to put this on a hill or something and make it the suspension in action, you can do that. Next is Rack C. This one has some of the upper details and then a lower plate. This is, I believe, part of the A7 Plus package. A little extra armor on the belly and side skirts there. Again, looks real sharp, real nice. Still digging in the box. Okay, next up is G. And this has some of the turret details, some of the smoke launchers. Does have, what's really interesting is the detail of the canvas pieces here molded in it, so you don't have to worry about that. It's already looks pretty realistic. Slide molded machine guns from the side. They're not hollow, but gives you all the detail on the top, so again, you don't have to build the machine guns out of 50 different pieces. So it looks real thin, real sharp looking. And this more smoke generators. Alrighty. And actually, I think those other tubes were for training. They're supposed to be fire as if the cannon fired that set of tubes. So correct me if I'm wrong on the comments down below. This one is B, and this has the rear radiator system on it. Really nice on that. Very fine detail. No need to do any photo etch on that, so I'm sure somebody will, but I don't think there's any need to do that. And some of the pieces for the front hull, these are actually extra cleats for the track. And some of the side armor packages there. Next up is D. D has the barrel. Unfortunately, it's not a one piece, it's a two piece, and it's not aluminum, but this one would be kind of tough to be aluminum. Does have the evacuator here, and this actually has detail on it because this is actually wrapped fiberglass. So it actually has that detail on there, so you don't have to replicate that. Bottom of the turret looks real good, real sharp. And then some of the other parts, like here's even a hose or cable here that is actually step molded, so it's actually in to fit on the chassis, and you don't have to worry about trying to fit it on there. So that's really cool. Next up is J. This is the side armor package. This is what makes it part of the Plus system, so this is what's different. And there's some slide molding here going on there and there for some details, all the little details for the side. So this whole package, this is part of the upgrade to the Plus system. Next up is H. And this has more of the side package armor, just slide molded on the side, so all those details are there. And this front slope armor protection here, that goes over the front of the chassis. So again, that is a part of that Plus system, some of the new parts. But really nice slide molding. I mean, all the details in there of all these little pieces here. Hopefully I'll get some close-ups of those next. Okay, seeing the bottom of the box finally. So E. This has some of the cannon detail, some of the mantlet, and then some of the old pieces to the A7. These are actually the angled doors that open on the side, so soldiers could hide behind them to do small arms fire. That is different on this, so you would not use those pieces, but gives you some of that nice detail there from the older kit. Okay. Clear parts, vision ports, headlights, which are really super clear. The last few Meng kits I've seen have super clear lenses, which are really nice. Instead of just being flat or just not very interesting, they actually look almost like an MV lens, so that's really nice. This vehicle does have LED headlights, so they do give you that, the square LED systems on there. Here's the photo etch that they do give you. Has some decals there and there, and then it has the grills here, the screens, some side details. Not a whole lot of photo etched, but this kit does not need it. Some cables, looks like soft copper wire, so that'll be kind of nice to be able to get it around where you want it. My kit, actually one of these grills is actually crushed because there were so many parts in the box, but it actually doesn't look too bad because the real radiator screens were would get dented and mushed up anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. Okay, that's it for all the parts. Now we got color sheet. Color callouts are ones from AK. This is the European camouflage here. My set of color sheets is actually dented here, so that's again being tight in that box. There is the prototype paint job from, I believe, the Rheinmetall factory is where this thing came out of, if I remember right. So that's kind of a neat desert camouflage there. Okay, the instructions, black and white, nothing too special. Talking about the tools and so forth, they also do interesting here, they do a pitch for their side cutters, and then it shows what side cutters come with, these are really nice side cutters. They're originally made by, I believe it's pronounced Despide or something along that line. Real good cutters, but Meng has marketed those type of cutters. And like I said, they tell you how that is superior to some of the others. Okay, bottom chassis, again, really straightforward. Putting on the bottom plate, extra armor. The rear section, here's where they are putting the torsion bar system in there. Shows no glue, so you can actually move them. Putting the wheels on, pretty straightforward. Not like the old German World War II stuff where it's pretty complicated. Here's where the track goes together. They give you a jig, so you can actually place the parts in there, and then use some parts still on the tree, and then place them, get them snapped together, and then cut that off. So you can do them in small runs of, looks like 6 links per run, and putting the track together. And there's putting on some of that frontal armor, rear view mirrors, cable, so forth. There's those headlights. Okay, putting on some of the photo etch there. They do give you, tell you to do it on both sides. There's the barrel system there. These instructions, because there's so many parts, are a little more complex than some of the other kits lately. I like them to be a little simpler, less pieces in each step, but like I said, there's so many pieces that they had to cram it in here. It's not too overly crowded. Should be able to follow all the lines and so forth, which is nice. So if there are other sub-assemblies, they're in separate boxes instead of just being off to the side, sub-assembly and then an arrow. I don't like that because that can get missed a lot. Some of the boxes has the air conditioning system on it, which is really interesting because that's something they learned in the Gulf. Got to have one of those. The side armor packages here. They don't have any of this door system that can open, unfortunately, but you can cut open whatever you want yourself. Finishing up the turret, there's the upper machine gun with the smoke grenades. And that is about it. It shows the layout of all the parts, and that is it for that. So pros and cons of this kit. Lots of pros. Nice molding, looks good. Instructions are pretty decent. The only con I would say is maybe a few more pages on the instructions to so they could have laid out less parts per step. And then, like I said, nothing but good things to say about this. The only other con is a lot of these kits are becoming, from Meng, are becoming hard to find. A lot of people never even knew this kit was coming. They did announce it on their Facebook page a few weeks ago before this airing of this tape, and but it's just kind of strange how some of these companies, even though they're big companies, are not getting the distribution word out there. I mean, this should have been, I mean, this was in some magazines, but the American community is actually just not hearing about this, unfortunately. Europeans, yeah, because it is in the magazines and so forth, but American market is getting missed, so that's just one con. I just wish they would help the American market out and get these in people's hands, because they're very good kits. So anyways, that is about it for the review on the Leopard 2 A7 Plus from Meng. Alright, for this issue of Model Building Techniques, I'm going to do a little short talk about airbrush, not the whole airbrush, but just the tip of the airbrush, and why certain things are the way they are. So basically, everybody who has an airbrush, one of the goals is trying to get a really, really fine line without any overspray or splatter. So what I'm going to be talking about is the actual tip here, and let me move it in here and give you a better idea of what I'm talking about. So this cone here, this is a dual action airbrush. This little cone here, the end nozzle here, you can see is actually a concave shaped piece, and works pretty good. It's actually there mainly to protect the needle, because the needle does stick out at the end, and if you're trying to get in real close and you don't have that, you're going to bend your needle. So that's the main purpose of it. The other purpose is it's has an angle on the inside, so the spray will actually accelerate and pull a little bit more to get your gravity feed system going. But when you get really, really close to your work, the problem is the air actually will come out of here, hit the item that you're spraying, and then ricochet back, go back into this nozzle and swirl around and keep going back and forth. And what happens is it pushes the paint that's supposed to be flowing out back in there, and you end up getting paint all over the place. You get spiders, it'll splatter, and then the air is just disrupted, so you get all kinds of problems. But again, we're talking when you're spraying right on the item, when you're basically right there like so. So the solution to that, which they've had for years, but a lot of people don't know about, is what they call a crown cap. And what a crown cap does is, this has a dual crown cap, 2 prongs. Some have 4, some have 3. But what it is it's basically the same exact one as this one, but what they've done is they've cut and molded these little slots out of each side of it, so you just have the pieces coming out, which are again there to protect the needle from getting damaged. So what this does is, when the air comes out and hits the item that you're working with, and then tries to reflect and come back, it will actually exhaust through those slots in the side of this piece. So it will actually spread out, and your air releases, and your paint can still get through for a much finer line. So you can see how the air would actually come out of this sideways on both sides. Again, it protects the needle. Now, some people do like to spray without anything and go straight with the needle sticking out, but again, you can damage it, and needles aren't cheap anymore. So there are some ways to bend them back. You can actually take a piece of glass and with your finger put the needle down and roll it with your finger and straighten it out, but you just need to replace them is what needs to be done. So if you do want to do really fine camouflage or really fine detail, you do need to get a crown cap. Most brands, Iwata and Werx, have crown caps. Some of them come with it, like this Werx came with it. Theirs is magnetic, so it just actually pulls off, and you can actually put the old one back on it, which is interesting. If you don't have that, what you can do if you're very creative is you can actually just take a file and file some slots in the side to make it actually have an evacuation system on there, or remove it completely. So that's what crown caps are for, and hope that helps a little bit on doing some really fine advanced work with your airbrush, and that should help you in your modeling. So up next is new gear. Alrighty, it's time for another episode of New Gear, and for this week I've got kind of a strange one here, and that is these right here. Alright, so what these are, as you can see, they're clothespins, but they're really very, very small clothespins. And I got these at a Michael's craft store. They are for scrapbooking and just doing different decorating with. That's why they're so small, but they actually come in pretty darn handy for modeling. And not just the obvious where they will clamp something together and hold it, which is what is one of their purposes. You can actually just clamp on a piece of model that you need to have it held till the glue dries, for example. So that works with these being so small. It's just that their jaws are pretty small, so it's kind of hard to use them. The other purpose I found for them, I will show you here. Something I kind of thought of recently when I was doing my model kit of this is of the steamroller. Let me back off here a little bit. But this is the steamroller kit from Hasegawa, and there's two different colors. The way to paint this, it's very hard to just prime it and then mask it and paint it, because there's so many different details in there. But they are separate parts, which is kind of neat. So this actually is going to be built sort of like a motorcycle model kit, where you may have seen motorcycle modelers, they have toothpicks or clips to hold every little part that they label on a foam strip. They spray all those parts, they clean them up, then spray them, and then assemble them. You just have to keep track of what the part is. So this is going to be the same way, but instead of just using alligator clips on sticks, what I've decided to do is actually use a few of these. Get back in here, tight. And I've taken all the parts off of their trees, their runners, and to keep the parts in order, what I did was I took a pencil and I wrote the part number on the side, like that's C4. So this way I can put everything back in the box, for example, like that. And as long as I don't shake it around too bad, these will actually hold on to the part, and that way I can label them and know which part they are. So when I do go to paint them, what I can do is I can take a series of them, say all these ones are going to be orange, and I will actually tape them to a tongue depressor, is what I use for painting. This right here, and I'll put a piece of tape on here. For example, I will make it double-sided, just looping the tape around. So I have it like that, and then I will mark what number it is. So for example, this one is B1, so we'll go B1. Take the part off of the clip, put it on the tongue depressor, and then I'll put a bunch more pieces on here. I'll spray it, let it dry, flip it around, and it's usually got enough sticky to flip it around, spray the other side. And then once it's done, since I still have the number there, I don't want to put the stick back in the box because it will come, this tape will dry out and the part will just fall off and then I'm lost again. So once it's dry, I'll just go ahead, and these are soft enough that I can put the clip back on it and it won't mar the plastic, being a wood clip. So then I throw it back in the box, and when I'm ready to assemble, I'm ready to go. So that's the new tool, something real simple. They're a couple, $2 or $3 for 30 or so of them. You can probably find them cheaper at a dollar store. And that is something that will hopefully help you out. And as always, I appreciate the support of the channel. And with that, I've got all kinds of stuff on the MouseWorks website, some tools. These are my sanding sticks. And this is how I support the channel. I was selling model supplies and stuff to make your modeling life go easier. So I appreciate people supporting me and purchasing these items. And if you have any comments, leave them below, and we will hopefully have another show here pretty quick. So hang in there and keep on building.